Okay, let's go ahead and get started. 10 o'clock, I appreciate everybody being here on time. We have a lot to go over with you. How many new people do we have here today? Okay, we have a newcomers meeting on October 13th, 7 o'clock, right here. See you there. Learn a lot more. Want to welcome all of our folks joining us via Zoom. How many people do we have by Zoom?
Right now we have 23.
23 people via Zoom. Excellent. All right, a couple of introductions before we get started. Our board president is just a little bit under the weather, so she apologizes she could not make it. But Ed Schottland, our VP, is here, the chairman of the nominating committee. Steve McManus, where's Steve? Our communications committee chair, over in the back. Keith Scheibel is at an ATAX committee meeting, and as soon as the ATAX committee meeting is over, he will come over here, so he's doing his town meeting. Is Christy here? Christy, didn't see you come in. Christy Graham, chair of the Lifestyles Committee. Mike Harris, so Mike, Maintenance Committee. David Barnum, ARB. Over here. Did I miss any board members? I know Rex had a prior engagement. And as did Bill Zerillo. Okay, we have both of our council members here with us today. Patsy Bryson and Melinda Tudor. Why don't you both stand up? Thank you for being here. Our staff, Todd Lindstrom, Assistant GM, Vanessa Green, where's Vanessa? Chief of Security. Is Larry here? Mike Kornstadt, our Deputy Director of Security. Chrissy and Jen are behind the counter. Did Michelle sneak in the back?
Oh, she's not here.
She's not here. Okay, I think she has another appointment. Pippi, our communications coordinator. David Mills, right here. David is here. And Trevor Scott, our tennis professional. I think we covered everyone. When we get to the PSD, we will introduce those folks to you. So we have 3 commissioners here as well as the GM of the PSD. So, you know, if your commode doesn't flush or you water doesn't flow, man, you can really lean on them today. In fact, I encourage you to lean on them and not me. All right, for the new folks, I am not going to go over every single bullet point on that presentation that you have in front of you. However, if there's something you want me to cover, then I skip over. Just stop me and raise your hand, and I'm happy to do it. These great.
I love it.
All right. Unlike the rest of the country, we are still selling real estate here. If you look at the stats in the back, in the past 6 months, we've sold over 200 homes. It's well over $500,000, you know, about 3/4 of the way through the year. And, you know, there's about 30 or so properties in the pipeline to close by the end of the year. And there's only, I think, about 2.4% or 2.4 months of inventory or something along those lines. So we're doing very, very well. We're in the shank of hurricane season. Do not let your guard down. Several storms, they've stayed away from us. Not wood, and we didn't like to talk about it. Spring Lake Pool is going to close the end of October. And speeding, running stop signs, and now if you're on your phone, and it's not only us, the Bluffton Police Department, the County Police Department, they're all leaning on this. If they think you're on your phone, they're going to pull you over and give you a ticket. So stay off your phone if you're driving the car. Cypress Boardwalk, if you have it, if you don't even know where it is, it's off the Birdsong Way. We just rebuilt it. It looks great. We've asked the Cypress people if they'd like to donate a bench, sit on that boardwalk. We're happy to accommodate them. They're doing that through the Cypress GM, who's Michael Fink. Engage, we're at 68%. We want to be 75%. Remember, all the email blasts that go out are going out to Engage. We're not sending it out by the old method anymore. It's been discontinued. So if you want information, you have to sign up for Engage. And Pippi wanted me to say, if you have app fatigue, you do not have to use the app. Security would like you to fill out your emergency contact information, and they want to do that by a hard copy, Pippi? Is that what Vanessa wants?
No,
Doing it online? Perfect.
but can I just clarify that quickly? It's on ABDI, it's not on Engage. So the app that you're using to get your guest passes, gateaccess.net, that's where you're going to put your emergency contact information. Because if you put it in a different way, all Vanessa's going to do is input it into ABDI, and you all can do that yourselves. So there's instructions on Engage to walk you through that process.
Thanks, Pippi.
Mhm.
If you have something in the RV boat storage area, and you have not sent in your lease renewal, send it in, it took us a month to get it done. Leisure paths, I'm gonna talk about this a little later when we talk about the budget. Canvas tennis shells, if you're playing tennis, we're on the last one. Once that's completed, the metal roofing material will go up on that, as well as the surrey. We continue to renovate the bocce courts, and there's gonna be some shade going up there as well after we finish with the shade on the tennis courts. Woodhog, that's that big monstrous machine that's in the maintenance yard when you drop off landscape debris. It has a leak between the cooling system and the oil system. And we're getting oil in the water. We are nursing it through hurricane season because we cannot let that machine go away. But after hurricane season, we're gonna have to send it out to probably get the engine rebuilt. So we're watching that very carefully. Assessments, we are on track next year to pay your assessments totally online, if you want to do that. Plantation Living, if you probably have noticed, is now a 48-page newsletter, and Pippi is knocking it out of the park with advertising. In fact, we're sold out to the end of the year. We have a waiting list for advertising, which is really, really cool. All right, I'm not gonna go through, we got the garage band, you have the trash and treasure sale, there's always a big deal. Paving contract, they may start, David told me, maybe next week, David? Maybe next week, David? I can't hear you. Maybe, all right.
I'll have the schedule this week, possibly start next week. We don't want to send it, we don't want to start without an email plan.
Got it. All right, everybody knows that the board has sent out a solicitation to several companies to do a 5 to 10 year capital improvement plan. That's due back the end of this month. Tomorrow we're doing flu shots here at Harris Theater and Burke's. We're doing that on October 2nd. And the Spring Lake Rotary Club is hosting a Special Olympics. And if you'd like to volunteer for that, get a hold of Trevor, who is right here. And that'd be a really neat program. So that's going to go on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of this month. Well, harvest party on November 1st. Cool family event for everybody.
Love that.
Dolphin Head Playground. A couple people asked me why. Because early on, we said that even a huge tree limb came down. And that's what caused the damage. And there's more damage to the resilient surface than to the playground itself. About $37,000 worth of damage. And the reason it's closed is that resilient surface is damaged. We don't want people on it. If they fall, that surface is not going to protect them. The board asked me to do an email vote, which we did, like a unanimous vote to go ahead with so they could order the parts. We hope to have it open by Thanksgiving. It's going to take some time to get the parts in and to get the company down that actually does the surfacing. Playground is one company, the surface is another company. And that playground in total cost about $900,000. So, you know, it's an expensive investment. And if you want to get your family pictures taken for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, Stephanie Dunn will do that. Budget. You're the first ones that are going to see this. The board passed the budget on Tuesday. And the assessment's going up by 7.2%, $650 a month. I think it's Todd, is it what, $76 for the year? Included in that is more money for the leisure paths. We went from 30 to 50 in the R&R fund and in the, I'm sorry, in the operating budget, and we went to $52,000 in the R&R fund. So we'll have a total of $102,000 to continue to do work. If you pay by cash or check, you get a discount. And we also included in that is a full-time maintenance person to help David, a part-time maintenance person to help David, and a part-time receptionist. And I think I've shared with you several times that I've had to raise the salaries of the security department and other departments simply to keep pace with the environment we're in. And to attract people to come over the bridge, you know, we have to pay a higher wage, and that's just the reality we're dealing with. Wow. E-bikes. We did a survey and we're gonna be publishing the survey results in Plantation Living. Believe it or not, most of you hate e-bikes. I know many of you love e-bikes and I got a lot of a lot of feedback from the e-bike owners, but the survey overwhelmingly, you guys don't like e-bikes. Now, class 3 e-bikes are going to be a challenge. We were all set to pass some regulations on this when we uncovered that there is a distinction between class 3 e-bikes, and if they go over, you can't exceed 750 watts or 1 horsepower, then they become a moped. And if they're a moped, then they have to be registered by the state, then they have to be driven by a licensed driver, then they have to be insured. These things are not regulated hardly at all, and they're going to be a pain in the neck, but we're going to deal with it as best we can. So stay tuned because we're going to have more on this. Okay, I was down this morning to Pine Island. That area is closed now. We've been down there. There are crews down there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they anticipate starting the dredge sometime today. They tried to start it last night. They had a mechanical issue, which they always do. And we actually have a trailer down there that turtle people are staying in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching turtles. So we've got the turtle people. I've got 2 crews working 12-hour shifts, and they're going to be operating around the clock to get this done. It's going to be gorgeous when it's done. After it's completed, the groin contract has been let. I'm hoping there isn't a long lag time between they finish the beach and they start the groins. We may be able to open the beach after the renourishment is done, and there's a lag for the groins. I'm hoping that the groins come right after. So we want to stabilize it so we don't lose any of the sand that's out there. I mean, this is going to be a huge transformation. And I urge you, go down, take a look from the safe distance behind the barricades now, and then obviously you can watch it as it progresses, how much beach is going to be replaced down there. It's going to be phenomenal.
Peter, can I ask a question?
Sure.
There's some confusion, at least among people talking about it.
There's never any confusion.
I know. Where's the sand coming from? Is any of it coming from the wraparound?
No, all of it is coming from the offshore side. It's being pumped miles and miles away.
So is there a plan to open up that cut in the back behind?
That is our backup plan after the town is finished. If we need to do a beach renourishment in between the town's beach renourishment, that is our assigned site to do it there. But right now, we don't have any plans to do anything on the channel. Okay. Once we get past September and into October, everything flies by. I mean, we go from Halloween, we kind of skip Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden it's Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's. So if you want to get something done by a contractor, myself included, get it done now, because all of a sudden everybody runs for the hills and goes on vacation and is otherwise occupied. And just people get really, really busy around the holidays. So get it all done, but we have a ton of stuff, and I'm not gonna go over every single thing that the lifestyle has put together for you, for the holidays, but they have a ton of things for you to do. And, if anybody has a problem with the reservation software, Janet Sean, Halloween pet parade, even if you don't have a pet. It's worth coming just to see how the other people make fools out of themselves. It's worth your time. We came up with this probably in 2001. Everybody said this is a dope use idea. They love it. Absolutely love it. I have heard nothing. Has Karen heard anything from the county's request? I know that, I spoke with Steve DeSimone, Councilmember DeSimone, and he said that you guys are working on the corridor, a plan, and it's still in flux, it's still in planning stage to improve that area between base of the bridge and Spanish Falls Road, because that seems to be a choke point as well. Go ahead, Patsy.
There'll be a workshop later this year,
In November.
so the public can come and take a look at what we propose.
Glad you're working on it. Thank you. Okay, this is starting today, and it should go through most of October, I'm told, and it's all gonna be dependent on equipment and weather. So best case scenario will be done by around October 15th. It may take a little bit longer based on equipment. But once they start pumping, that sand gets pumped on the beach continuously. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, we always talk about firearms are not permitted in any of the buildings. You're allowed to carry them across if you have them in your car, in a safe place, locked up in your car. If you own a firearm, make sure it's locked in your house, away from young hands. If you carry it in your car, lock your car. Make sure that the gun is secured. Vanessa and I don't like to talk about how low our crime rate has been. It has been extremely low. We had that one unfortunate incident at the Cypress, and just for everyone's edification, the gentleman who was shot and his wife, neither one of them lived here. Neither one of them lived in the Cypress. They were given a reference from Encompass Health to get some physical therapy at the Cypress. So it's just an unfortunate situation, and those are only the details I can share, but they were not property owners here, they were not residents here, they were actually residents of some state. Okay, talked about the weapons. Of course, we're going to talk about alligators at some point. For new people, they're alligators, they're here, and we can't shoot them at will. They were here long before we are, and they're not going anywhere. If you think an alligator is aggressive, call security, they'll go out and evaluate it. That's the way we handle it. And security does alligator calls all the time. They get alligators out of pools, alligators out of garages, alligators out of yards, from your front door. This is what they do, among other things. Snakes, lizards. Vanessa doesn't do spiders, but her officers do. And I'm gonna go over this with the newcomers, but if you run out of gas anywhere on the property, we'll give you 2 gallons of gas free of charge. If your battery's dead in the morning, you call us up, we'll come over, we'll jumpstart the car for you. You have a flat tire, you need air in your tire, we'll put air in your tire for you. If you're not in an emergency situation, and you're on the side of the road, we'll help you fix your tire, change it. And of course, we respond to all those beeping sounds from your smoke detector because the battery's going dead and you don't know what the heck it is. They come and they look at that too. And if your hot water heater breaks and there's water pouring into your living room, they have a key to turn it off at the street as well. So they do all those things for you. You know, parents, obviously, you know, mind them if they go near a lagoon, and I know they like to fish, but do not fight an alligator for a fish. Give them the fish. Don't harass them, don't feed them. If you feed them, you're killing them. And besides the alligators, we have bobcats, we have coyotes, we have raccoons, we have armadillos. Recycling at the convenience center. Most people, you know, we did on the survey, most people just use the convenience center. They don't use a private trash hauler.
Mm-mm.
You know, they put the dog in the car, they go to Starbucks, get a latte, and they can go down. It's their regular routine. So use common sense, because you have all these things around you. This is what I talked to you about. This was the stats from the last coffee. And you can say, I think the price came down a little bit, but you know, 2.4 months worth of inventory. 207 sold. You know, now we're up to 227 in the past year. And still, inventory fairly low.
Yeah.
But you know, any house that goes up on the market, you know, very, very quickly. It goes. Anything good. Okay. That's all I have. I wanted to introduce two other people real quick. Mark Baker, who's quasi-retired from Wooden Partners. But Mark's firm designed Spring Lake Pavilion, designed Dolphin Head Pool, and designed, I'm sorry, not Dolphin Head Pool, Spring Lake Pool, and Dolphin Head Rec Center. They've done all that work. They're land painting from Wooden Partners and all work. And former council member Glenn Stanford. Glenn, good to have you here as well. Yeah, how many past presidents do we have in the audience? I saw Tony Matthews, I saw Jerry Petrera. Thank you. And how many committee members? Anyone who's on a committee, stand up. I hope they're plantation committee. You know, these are, you know, people that listen and then bring those ideas back to the community. Thank you guys for your service. Okay, anyone have a question for me before I turn it over? Yeah.
Yeah, they skip me.
Like, you didn't really zero in on what's going on with the deer population. Are we thinning that out as we get into this time of year when you be dropping?
About the deer population?
Right.
There are deer here.
There are deer, but I meant as far as pulling the herd.
We don't talk about that.
No,
Very good.
We do herd management, but we don't talk about it.
Well, once the time changes, it'll be dark earlier.
We don't tell you. This is more secret than the CIA.
Follow up to that, even though you don't want to talk about it, we've seen more deer activity in
We know.
daylight hours.
We're addressing it.
And tell the deer.
Oh dear. Any other questions, reports? I guess.
It's like my first time speaking or asking questions, so don't get mad at me and be nice. So I'm referring to the studying our finances for a while, and I'm looking at the advertising revenue, and I'm wondering if there's a line for tennis revenue with revenue from Spring Lake, because it is part of our general revenue, so we just kind of want to understand.
What revenue stream are you asking about?
Spring Lake membership, where you.
Oh, yeah.
And others, yeah.
I don't generally include those, but you know, I'm happy to share that information with you. Obviously, we get revenue from the Spring Lake tennis for court fees, as well as daily court rates, as well as memberships.
Yeah.
We get revenue from rental of this building. We get revenue from the Spring Lake. We get revenue from Dolphin. Dolphin Head by far probably brings in more revenue than Plantation House and Spring Lake combined.
Okay, well, so I guess the members who pay for use of Spring Lake, their funding is not dedicated to sort of.
If they pay for Spring Lake, you're helping out your neighbors. Because you're reducing the assessments they have to pay,
So
and we appreciate it.
So it's also going to pave the roads or fix the gates.
Yep.
Okay, I did that for some, okay, so I think that, okay, I'm a member and I really didn't know that. And looking at the operating budget, it seems a lot of like what to do next year. But what are we doing about, unexpected expenses or things that are really need to be repaired or fundamentally improved upon that are not currently.
In the operating budget,
Yeah,
we have, well, we actually have 4 different funds, but we have a R&R fund, which is a repair and replacement fund, and major components of the plantation are on that list. And we reserve for those. And it could be roads, it could be leisure paths, it could be an HVAC system, it could be a roof, it could be painting. And that is funded through the operating budget. We are allowed by our governing documents to put 15% of our assessment revenue into the R&R fund every year. We can supplement that with non-operating funds as much as we want. And what we have been doing for the past several years is supplementing it with $100,000 of non-assessment revenue. What is non-assessment revenue? It's all the revenue you just mentioned, plus the biggest outside source, and Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, are gate passes. Probably close to what, $1 million? Close to $1 million in gate passes for contractors who come in and either pay a daily gate fee or a monthly gate fee or a yearly gate fee. And that money we can put into our, the other fund we have is the weather casualty fund. And it's almost as close to $3 million in that. And that's the case, God forbid, we get hit with a hurricane. We have funds to clean the place up. And then we have the capital fund, which I mentioned before, and that we're getting close to what, 1.7 total? Around 1.7. That's what we use to build. We do the Spring Lake Pavilion, we do the Spring Lake Pool, we do Dolphin Head, and eventually, hopefully, this building and others as well.
those sounds to me like balance sheet items and not operating money.
They're not operating in.
Well, the distinction I'm making is that, for the budget course you mentioned, for instance, that comes from private fundraising on the budget net. On the tennis court, we have, unbalanced drains, we have fences that are buckling, which is a real liability issue, in case something was hit their head on it. And the pavilions, the shelters took months to build. First we have a foundation, and then it doesn't happen for a while, and then the supports go up, and then the canvas go up, and they're still not completed, so that took a really long time.
That's why we're putting more people in the maintenance department this
Okay,
year.
but is there sufficient funding in the budget that support these very infrastructure issues that need to be taken care of?
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
It just takes some time to get it all done. And we have to remember, we had over 40 inches of rain in a 40-day period, which set us back many, many months of work. It also wiped out the tennis courts 4 times.
Yeah.
Totally. In fact, so bad that we didn't have any material to put on. We had to borrow material from another club to rebuild the tennis courts.
That, I think that goes to why money for the courts are not dedicated to the courts, but also, we separate conversation, but I would really love to see how those type of funding are in the operating budget and overall.
And if you see
And
you see me or Todd one-on-one, I'm happy to go over every line and every budget with you.
And when you say it takes time, what are we talking about? A couple of years, or we're talking about now? And what if so I'm relatively new here. And if those funding are not in the operating budget to be done right away, because they're important, it will be me and the income that we have to pay for it. And perhaps not through operating.
And ma'am, rather than take up everybody's time, I'm happy to see you one-on-one and talk to you about it.
Tell us absolutely, but I would.
And there's funding for everything you mentioned.
Fine, I just wanted to raise those. It's coming to. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
There's a question from Zoom. At the front entrance to the plantation, the residence lane and the visitors and contractors lane are not marked as clearly as they should be. Is there any plan to improve this?
They're marked. People don't just look at them. unfortunately.
So the answer is no.
Well, the answer is we'll look at it.
Okay.
We'll always look at it. Sir,
I'd like to thank you for the Adirondack chair, Dolphin Head.
you're welcome. I put them together myself.
A resident is saying thank you for the Adirondack chairs down at Dolphin Head.
We've talked about the screened-in porch and there's an issue with that. But we've talked about it. Yep. Third,
Yes, I've had a couple of people mention to me that they want to know, or they're not signing up for Engage because they don't want to have another app on their phone.
they don't have to use the app. Go
I
ahead.
just want
you
to
mind?
address everybody.
All right, so just for the Zoom audience, the question was, do people have to use the app in order to use Engage? So we know that app fatigue is real, that, people just don't want another app. The nice thing is, this can feel like it did prior to Engage, where you just got the e-blasts. All you have to do, though, is sign up and set your notification preferences. So once you've set those notification preferences, you never have to use any other feature on Engage, and those e-blasts will just magically appear in your inbox, okay? So you don't have to use the app on your phone or your iPad. You can use it just like, a regular old inbox email. Any questions regarding that, or any other questions about Engage I could address quickly?
I can just confirm it does work.
Yay, it does work. And it really does, but if you are wondering why you're not getting them, make sure you check your notification preferences. You're automatically opted in for Association News, but you're not automatically opted in for other features. So make sure you check. You especially want to have your watch alerts turned on, because that's the hurricane news. That's the important stuff.
Thanks, Betty. Okay. I am going to introduce, I was told that Jerry Cottrell is going to do a tag team with Pete Nardi. And I'm going to introduce Jerry, and then Jerry is going to introduce the other commissioners, and then bring Pete up when he's finished with his part of the presentation. Jerry and I go way back. He's a former board president and has been on committees for years and years and years. And Pete, I've known for 20 years, Pete?
25, maybe?
Yeah, we go way. Pete used to be a reporter for the Island Packet before he switched careers. I used to be a school teacher before I switched careers. So with that, Jerry, take the mic.
Am I live here?
Yes, you are.
And you're gonna keep it close.
I need this also, right?
Okay, no. Why don't you use the flip one?
I found something like that.
Pointer, up, down, pointer.
Well, good morning. I'm Jerry Cottrell. I got to raise my hand as a former POA president. I was president in 2017. For those of you who were here, that was the year we cleaned up from Hurricane Matthew. Questions were asked about reserves. Now, they're important. We spent $4.5 million in the POA cleaning up from the hurricane, but that's another story. So I serve currently as the vice chairman of the Board of Commissioners of the Hilton Head Public Service District. I'm a former board member of the POA and former president, so it's been my pleasure over the last number of years to work with the two Peters, which I believe are two of the greatest general managers in all of South Carolina, Pete Nardi and Peter, what's his name? We're going to talk to you today about the PSD, Public Service District. We talk to you about water, sanitary sewer, recycled water, which is an amazing story here on Hilton Head Island. We win international awards for what the PSD does. And then Pete will be available to take questions at the end. What we're doing today is a dog and pony show. I'm the dog, Pete's the pony, he's the star of the show. So I'll be kind of quick. So the BSD was created in 1969 by an act of the General Assembly. It's what is known in South Carolina as a special purpose district. There are a number of these across the state. There are only a few that have elected commissioners, and we are one of them. Hilton Head PSD when it was created, it consolidated 5 or 6 local utilities. When the plantations were being developed and Hilton Head was being developed, each developer had to put in their own water and sewer system. So we had these little bitty things. But we actually had a Hilton Head Plantation Water and Sewer Authority or utility. We serve about 25,000 customers. We have 44 staff people. We run lean and mean and take in about $29 million in annual revenues, have $160 million in assets, and our credit rating is AA+. I was remiss in beginning my remarks. I wanted to introduce 2 other commissioners who are here, Michael Marks and Andy Paterno, if you all would stand. The 3 of us, we'll see this in a couple of minutes. The 3 of us represent all of Hilton Head Plantation. So we're your 3 commissioners. If you have a problem, call us and we'll help you. There are, amazingly enough, 3 water and sewer utilities on Hilton Head Island. The big green one is the Hilton Head PSD. One in sort of red is Broad Creek PSD, and South Island, which serves the south end of Hilton Head.
Is there any opportunity to merge all 3 of those together?
That's an excellent point, and the answer is unfortunately, probably not. There ought to be one utility. Everybody thinks there should be one utility, but there's not going to be one utility. We are the only elected Board of Commissioners. The other 2 organizations, like most special purpose districts in South Carolina, their commissioners are appointed by the governor with the consent or advice of the local legislative delegation. And basically, they sort of have almost a lifetime. So there's little incentive for the others to join us. We kind of wish there was, but we're not going to spend our time worrying about that. If you know where the Hilton Head Beach and Racquet Club is, or if you remember where Carrabba's restaurant used to be, Beach and Racquet Club's a little further south from there. So our district runs from right there, Hilton Head Beach and Racquet, all the way out to and including Windmill Harbor. So that's where we have around 19,000 customers, but we serve 25,500 residents. The PSD Commission, again created by state law, has 7 members. We are elected to 4-year terms. There's an election every 4 years, every 2 years. Districts 2, 3, and 4, and 6 are up in 28. I was reelected to a 2nd term last year. I'm sorry, and I'm in District 4, so I'll be up for reelection in 28, and then we have 3 commissioners who will be up in 27. When you go to the ballot, you look down and you scroll down and down and down and down, and you get to the referenda, and that's 3 or 4 pages long, and you keep going, and the PSD is on the very bottom. Nobody knows what we do, nobody knows who we are, but you get votes. My good friend Andy Paterno and I ran re-election in November. I got 1,681 votes, and that son of a gun got 1,682. But I had 6 write-ins and Andy had 11, so he won the gross, but I won the net.
I voted for Andy and not you just to annoy him there.
That's fine, since you're not in my district. We have to reside in the voting district that we represent, and we have a chair, vice chair, the officers are elected each year by the individual commissioners. Our role is to review and approve the annual operating and maintenance and capital improvement budgets. We have full local control of consumption rates. Once a year, the staff does a very detailed rate study and cost of service analysis, and based on that, 7 commissioners on the recommendation of staff set the water and sewer rates the upcoming year. And we follow a philosophy. Let me back up and say, we serve in PSD some of the richest people on Hilton Head Island and most of the poorest people. Native Islander community is almost completely within our district. And so our philosophy setting rates is we charge as much as we have to and as little as we can get by with. But we're very sound financially, and it's been a joy to be part of that organization. We have full control over property tax rates. The PSD is blessed with an unusual arrangement in South Carolina, in that we actually have a tax levy for operations. It's a small village, but you'll see it on your tax bill. And then our primary responsibility is to employ and evaluate annually the general manager. And that's where we have really exceeded. We have the best commission in the world because we have the best GM in any water and sewer utility in the country. So that's overview here. We, when the PSD was originally organized in '69, it had appointed commissioners. In 2003, there was a lot of unhappiness with what was going on with the PSD. And a group of people in Hilton Head Plantation got up in arms about what was going on. They went to the state legislature, they lobbied them, and the state passed a bill that changed the makeup of the Hilton Head Public Service District and changed it from appointed to elected officials. We had 1 commissioner who represented Indigo Run, 2 commissioners who represented Port Royal, Almeda Hall, 1 commissioner that was sort of the Native Islander community, and 3 commissioners who represented all of Hilton Head Plantation. That was in 2003. 2010, the census comes along. I don't know why we didn't do it then. I wasn't on the board then. But after the 2020 census, when we got the numbers, we learned that we were not exactly complying with federal voting rights laws. So we voluntarily redistricted ourselves and split up this prior organization or the way it was arranged. And so we now have districts. The objective was to have about 3,600 people per commissioner, and that's what came pretty close to that. So the can area, you see the blue here, can area up there is where Andy Paterno represents. The brown area is Michael Marks's area, and then my district is the green one, and it goes actually out of Hilton Head Plantation a little bit and goes down the Gumtree Road some. So we are fully in compliance now. We did this voluntarily, it worked out real well, and we have an equal representation throughout the community. But we are your commissioners and the staff. Pete runs the staff and the staff runs the water and sewer. I think that's all of me, isn't it, Pete? Yes, it is. So I'm done. I'm going to turn it over to the best Water and Sewer General Manager of America, Pete Nardi.
Well, I'm glad this is being recorded because I'm going to use Jerry's remarks from my annual evaluation. He did say that. So. Well, I'm Pete Nardi. I'm the GM of the district. I've been the general manager for going on about 11 years. I've been with the utility for over 21 years. I've lived here in Hilton Plantation for about 25 years. Both my kids were born here on the island. Son graduated Hilton Head Island High. My daughter's a junior there now. Like Jerry said, a couple things, big picture to take away. The PSD operates really complex systems, a lot of complex equipment. Really, none of it happens without the men and women that work there. We have a great workforce. Increasingly difficult to recruit a really great workforce here on the island. Workforce housing is a real issue for us. We try to do a lot with folks who already live here. A lot of Native Islanders work for the district and have worked for the district over the years. Hiring some folks right out of Hilton Head Island High because they're already here. So we're big on staff development, but it's a pretty steep ratio of staff members to customers. But we can't do it without our team. So really, the PSD is doing 6 different things. We produce our own tap water from groundwater sources. We'll talk about that. We run water treatment operations, primarily reverse osmosis treatment in our plant on Jenkins Island. Then we have an extensive water distribution system. There's no point in treating it and producing it if you can't get it to your house at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's all the pipes and towers and meters and all that. Then we are a sanitary sewer utility. We try not to do anything with stormwater, but we're a sanitary sewer collection utility. So all the wastewater is generated inside homes and businesses. Wastewater treatment. We have kind of your garden variety municipal wastewater treatment plant. Ours is over on Oak Park Drive off of Matthews. If you ever want to come take a visit, please let me know. I'm glad to walk you through the plant. Glad to walk you through any of our facilities that we'll talk about today. Just let me know. What's really cool about Hilton Head Island and the PSD is that we are 100% recycled water utility. So unlike most places in North America, all the wastewater that's treated here on the island, it gets recycled. It's sold to golf courses for their irrigation. So basically no courses on the island are irrigating with tap water. They're all irrigating with recycled water. That was something that Charles Frazier introduced back when they were doing sea ponds in the 60s. And we proliferated it around the island. But really unique system. Then does anybody know what we do with it when golf doesn't need it? Because we don't flood golf courses when it's raining. Anyone know where it goes when golf doesn't need it? It goes into places like Whooping Crane Pond Conservancy, Cypress Conservancy, and 3 existing wetlands that are in Palmetto Hall. So it's a wetlands nourishment program too. Very, very unique. Many communities in North America are envious of that kind of program because mostly what we do in North America is we treat municipal wastewater and then we discharge it back into a surface water body like a river or lake. We don't do that here on the island, 100% recycled water. We're the stewards of these major water supply and production distribution assets, all the stuff underground that's bringing the water to us all the time. Same with sanitary sewer. A lot of pipes, a lot of manholes, a lot of pump stations. We don't have any gravity to really help us here on the island, so we operate over 120 sewer lift stations to move wastewater to the wastewater treatment. Heavily regulated industry. Your tap water that comes out of your tap is far more regulated than any bottled water that you could buy. So we're regulated by the US EPA, we're regulated by the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services. In South Carolina, we have what's called state primacy. So the state is the primary regulator, but they're carrying out the national drinking water standards. When we're doing recycled water, we discharge that under a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES permit. So it's a federal permit that you have to meet the quality standards to be able to discharge the wastewater. We have a full-time water quality lab, water quality technician. Sarah is pictured there. We are repeatedly named a lab of excellence due to her work. And then the results, our results aren't just verified by ourselves, they're verified by the state and then different independent labs that the state uses to verify utility results. We're also a member of something fairly prestigious called the Partnership for Safe Water. This is a national peer-reviewed program. It's related to the optimization of our water distribution system. So we're reporting a lot of data about things like leaks, about chlorine residual, that sort of data. That's going to a national group that then reviews us in order to stay in that program. Ourselves and the Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority on the mainland are the only Beaufort County utilities that are members of the partnership. We try to do a lot of communicating. I think like Jerry's mentioning, we've been recognized nationally for our communications. We do a lot of social media stuff. We do a lot of digital stuff. If you don't get our e-newsletter, it's called the Liquid e-newsletter. Sign up for that. You can go on our website and do that. And it's a really nice monthly rundown, a lot of links and very sticky kind of communication. Sarah tries to get out in the schools quite a bit too. So if I can leave you with something today, it's the incredible value that we all get for our water and sewer. We buy so many things by the gallon every day, right? And you know, a lot of it's going up, of course. But when we think about what we're getting, and I'm using this is for 20,000 gallons of PSD water and sewer, you're talking about something that literally costs a fraction of a penny right now. And I had an old boss that used to say, Pete, always tell them also that's delivered for you. So, but it is really, you know, it is a catch-22 kind of around the US. Water, we do a great job with water quality, with abundance of water, but then it's also a little bit undervalued because of the relative expense. While I have you all, who was here during Hurricane Matthew? Okay, so good group that knows the drill. Just a few things, you know, if you can, please heed the evacuation orders. Don't expect utility services. The water and sewer is extremely reliant on electricity. We can do some with generators. We can't do it all. And you can't expect that there'll be utility services we get struck by a storm. We try to use what's called Joint Information Center concept with the town of Hilton Head Island. The town of Hilton Head's 911 center and its emergency operations center are located in the upstairs of the PSD. And the utility, with a storm approaching, the utility kind of flips over into first responder mode. There's a group of us that stay behind. Our building's category 3 rated. So we actually stay behind. We're really closely linked with Hilton Head Fire Rescue when we get into that kind of emergency stuff. If the first responders have to evacuate the island, we're all set up over at USCB and a first responders base camp there with police, Hilton Head emergency room, all that kind of stuff. But for homeowners, it's so nice to have the water shutoff valve right behind your meter. Have your own private water shutoff valve where you can pop that cap, get yourself a ball valve, a steel valve, any plumber put one in for it if you don't have it, and you can shut that off yourself. You're not having to play with the meter box. Some of you might already have in your garages. It's nice to have it for the whole property if you can do it. And please keep that meter box undisturbed. So, all right, so about our water resources, what we got going on. We have about 12.5 million gallons a day available to us for tap water. The water utilities talk in terms of MGD, million gallons per day for demand. 4 million gallons we can do with our reverse osmosis plant. We have the right to buy 4 million gallons a day from the mainland utility that's conveyed to us via a pipeline. We can still get, if we were really pushing them, we can get about 2.5 million gallons a day out of our freshwater wells. But that is a source of water that we've lost to a particular phenomenon. Anyone know what that's called? And then we do a really neat thing called aquifer storage and recovery. We have one over on Royal James, the PSD's property right in here at Royal James. And it's not a source of water, but it's a supply technique that I'll tell you about. It's really key for meeting peak demands, but also for disaster recovery. We're in the process of building another. So the expansion projects that we're doing, we're really on our way to push into about 18 million gallons a day. It would be our total capacity. A big key for us is that those freshwater wells, that is a source that still is at risk. So we face a little bit because of growth, but we really are concerned about losing capacity to more saltwater intrusion. So we're trying to build back primarily through reverse osmosis. As you can see, economics, our own groundwater really remains our most economical. In the RO plant, we can make that water for about $1 per 1,000 gallons of water. If we have to buy it from the mainland, the peak rate is now $3.35 per 1,000 gallons, buying it from Beaufort Jackson. So their water is kind of becoming too expensive for us. We got to rely more on our own ground. And that, you know, the fresh water that we've lost was also our most economical, but those of us have been around a while. We also know that fresh water, aesthetically, not so great. Pioneer classic East Coast ground. So we're moving to more higher quality sources of water, but gonna be hard. Like I'm saying, about 75% of our water is sourced from our own groundwater. You know, nationally, about 35% of tap water utilities are groundwater based. Here in South Carolina, it's kind of actually a little rare to be so groundwater based. Most of our state is blessed with really abundant surface water. Lots of rivers and lakes in South Carolina. Most communities in our state get their water from rivers and lakes. Here on the coast, we have to do a lot of groundwater. But the reverse osmosis capacity does about 60% of our supply. That's only going to continue to increase as we increase capacity in that plant. So we're excited about it. Future demand projections. We use town of Hilton Head density projections as best we can, and it's looking like a possibility of getting to around 15 million gallons a day on peak day. And average day demand right now is around 6. We're concerned about an average that could get, you know, around 10, 9 or 10. So, like I'm saying, 6 million gallon a day average. We can peak at about 10 to 11 million gallons a day. Usually mid to high, we'll hit our peaks. We have to build a system to meet the peak. We'll talk in a minute about why we get into peak demand here. But 1 million gallons a day, a swimming pool the length of a football field, 50 feet wide and about 10 feet deep. And if you look at it on an annual basis, it's about 2.3 billion gallons of water that would provide. So the groundwater here, it's called the Floridan Aquifer System. It's a limestone aquifer. The groundwater is encased in fissures in the limestone. The upper Floridan, what we've lost, about 150 feet deep is where we were hitting that. Lost 10 of 14 of those wells since 2000, mostly due to saltwater intrusion. Some of them had some other aesthetic issues and constituent issues. The middle Floridan is what we're really relying on right now. We hit it at about 600 feet deep, and it's just another layer of this same Floridan aquifer, which is one of the largest aquifers in the world. It starts around the Beaufort area and runs into the Florida Everglades. But it's a confined layer aquifer, which really does help with the quality. You know, folks that have they say, oh, I have an irrigation well. Usually that's in like the 0 to 50 feet, and it's in the superficial aquifer. It'll like subside if it's not rainy. But then the upper, about 150 to 200 semi-permeable layers, and then we get into the middle again around 600. But all limestone based. This is a rendering of what the saltwater intrusion looks like. Basically, really intense pumping of that upper Floridan. Oops, I'm sorry. In the Savannah area, primarily going way back, a lot of industry in Savannah. You have International Paper there, which is going away now, unfortunately. But they had one process during their day would use 6 million gallons out of the upper Floridan aquifer. Just one part of their plant, whereas the entire island is capped at the use of about 6 million gallons out of the upper Floridan. But basically removes the head pressure that was keeping the salt at bay, and then you started to get it into that freshwater source. Really started seeing it back in the 30s and 40s. The island is like a pincushion of wells. Not only the production wells, but all kinds of monitoring wells. Some owned by the utilities, some that are owned by the state of South Carolina, to primarily monitor saltwater intrusion. And we try to do our best to map the front of the saltwater intrusion so that any future groundwater development is based on where we can have abundance and have high quality. But you got to know what, as best you can, try to know what's under there. So the reverse osmosis plant, right now it does 4 million gallons a day. It's out on Jenkins Island. Again, if you ever want to come look at it, let me know. It's kind of a quick visit. You open the door and there it is. But we're expanding it to 6 million gallons a day. We're doing a new well into the middle Floridan to get the raw water, and that raw water then will go into the plant and allow us to expand the production capacity of the plant. RO, US Navy really is who got RO going for aircraft carriers and things like that. But you're just taking the higher concentrated, the brackish, in our case, brackish groundwater, higher concentrate, move it through the membrane, create lower concentrate, clean water coming out the center, and the concentrate, the brine is coming out around the edges of it. We have to make about 1 million gallons of brine to make about 4 million gallons of drinking water. And we discharge the brine into Skull Creek. So we're putting less salty water into the saltwater background of Skull Creek. To do reverse osmosis really begins with where you're going to discharge brine. When we're buying from the mainland, Beaufort Jasper, they're primarily treating surface water from the Savannah River. They own a 16-mile long intake canal off of the Savannah River. They have the rights to about 100 million gallons a day out of the river. They only right now have the capacity to treat about 45 million gallons a day. But they are expanding because, as you know, there's just exponential growth. Hardyville, Richland, Greater Bluffton. You've heard of this thing called the US 278 corridor. So, in conjunction with that project, there's going to be relocation of this drinking water transmission pipeline. The water we buy from the mainland is a 24-inch pipeline that is buried under the Intracoastal Waterway. It gets about 72 feet under the riverbed. It was built in 1999 in response to saltwater intrusion. It was one of the tactics the island used to respond to saltwater intrusion. We were facing likely the relocation of the entire pipeline due to the bridge plans. It's now possible we'll face only a portion of the relocation, primarily on Pinckney Island when it comes to grade. But that will be a project the PSD will be involved in. We're joint owners of this infrastructure with the smaller utility Jerry was showing you called Broad Creek PSD. It serves Palmetto Dunes and Shoulder. So this cool thing we do called ASR, Aquifer Storage and Recovery. The facility is right here on Royal James. This was the first one of these built on the island. A few more have been built now. But what it does is it's a well that both injects treated drinking water into the aquifer, stores it there, and then it withdraws and retreats that water for distribution. So we inject and recharge in the winter months when the demand is lower. We build our bubble of treated drinking water underground. And then we flip the well over, it withdraws and retreats in the spring and summer months of the higher demand. It's a supply of water, not a source in and of itself, but it's a tremendous technique for not only meeting the peaks, but for recovering from something like a hurricane. In the case of Matthew, we had, I think, 10, 12 million gallons of water available to us still in the ASR. So when we got back on the island, we were able to turn that facility on and start repressurizing the water distribution system pretty rapidly. You can't do it without the supply, that kind of high level supply available to you. And our well is, it was actually written up by the United Nations as a worldwide example of managed aquifer.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
Pete,
Yeah,
would you mention the capacity of a typical water tank?
yeah, so, good segue, thank you, Jay. So this is our Leg of Mutton ground storage tank off of Gardner Drive. You've probably driven by it. Big concrete storage facility. It only holds 2 million gallons of water. The ASR, 260 million gallons. So it creates a supply of water you simply cannot build above ground. And what we're doing now is building a second one of these on the Ashmore tract. We work really well with the town of Hilton Island, with our town council. We're building a second one of these ASRs on town-owned property on the Ashmore tract, and we'll be able to bracket the PSD service area with this high level of supply. So it'll be key for meeting peaks. It'll be key for disaster recovery for us. Really good resiliency. Lots of trivia, but you know, that's the kind of water distribution system that we're stewards of. Over 250 miles of mains that the team is caring for. So you've probably seen our drill rig in the sky over at Crazy Crab. Again, town-owned property, the old Welcome Center site. The hydrogeology told us that looked good for well field expansion for the RO plant. So worked with the town to get that site, and a well is being built on it as we speak, going about 600 feet deep. Get the well built, the pipeline is in place that will bring that water back over to the reverse osmosis plant on Jenkins Island. These are, all told, about 29 million in long-range water supply projects. Expansion of the RO plant, so not just the well, but also expansion of the equipment in the plant to treat the water. An emergency generator for the RO plant. We built that thing in 08. It doesn't have an emergency generator on it. So we're pretty excited to get that if we get the power knocked down. Build this second ASR well. And then we've also added a new booster pumping station on our water distribution system, replacing pumps that have been in place since about the 60s. So, started like Eric mentioned earlier, started with about a $17 million project. Utilities around the state were experiencing 40 to 80% increases in construction costs versus what we had pre-COVID. So our 17 million turned into 29. We are fairly aggressive and fairly innovative when it comes to, on the utility side, hunting leaks. We were one of the first utilities around the country to start using satellite-based leak detection. I don't purport to really understand the technology all that well, but the satellites can detect chlorine signature outside of the pipe. So you give them your utility mapping, and the satellite is saying to you, you know, we think there's tap water that's actually getting outside of the pipe in these particular areas. We used it back in 2019. We found a leak on a main running across a marsh. We think it was old hurricane damage. It saved us about 1.5 million gallons a day, the leak that was being created. We also try to use drones. This is Jackson Tomaszewski, Hilton Head I grad kind of guy, local boat captain. He's a drone pilot. We used him to look for potential leaks on some of the distribution mains that are making like cross-country runs through marshes and things like that. We just can't walk out to them or drive a truck. So Hilton Head is a place of really great environmentalism, but it's also a place of this. So we do ask, you know, be mindful of irrigation. It really is the biggest driver of tap water demand here on the island. 40 to 60% is primarily residential irrigation. That's not the goal. That's me at my house. You know, asphalt doesn't need water. And Hilton Head, and we're honest, this is probably the most broken local ordinance in U.S. history. But there is at all times, 2 days a week only irrigation rule. It's not a drought thing. It is the island's town ordinance. You may only irrigate 2 days a week at all times. Odd numbered, even numbered address rotation. And then the biggie in the ordinance is have a working rain sensor. I can tell you, we get a rain event. We get an inch, a 2-inch rain event. We can sit in our control room in PSD and watch the demand for water just fall right off a cliff. And that is the rain sensors kicking on. I know many of you are rushing out to your garage and turning the rain bird off, but that it really is the automated rain sensors kicking on and shutting the irrigation off. So they are so key to have those. We have, it's not an app. It's not an app. You can just go on to the PSD website. We have a customer portal there. It's really neat. It's a one-stop portal. You can do your bill payment through it, but you can also do your consumption tracking. And you can set up leak alerts. It'll alert you if the meter never shut off. Hey, your meter is running, 24 hours. You'll get an alert from it. You can set your own water budget. I set mine to know basically that my sprinklers came on. You can set a water budget and it'll notify you that you used X gallons in your budget. And then it's also your bill payment stuff. Compare your usage to your own usage over time, things like that. Really neat value added. Sanitary sewer. Like I said, really no gravity here. So lots of sewer force main, lots of lift stations. We do 2 types of sewer, traditional gravity, but then also we've had to convert a lot of areas that were on septic systems, convert them to the public sewer. So we use a thing called low pressure sewer, which is like a grinder unit that gets dropped on the property, unhook the property from the septic system onto the grinder unit pushes out to the nearest sewer main in the street. We've served a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the neighborhoods that were already a built environment, but all on septic. and it's a great way to convert. A lot of programs here, really a place of tremendous generosity when it comes to helping neighbors get hooked up. Community Foundation of the Low Country operates a grant program called Project Safe. It helps low to middle income homeowners get connected to sewer. The town of Hilton Head Island has funded a sewer connection grant program. And we really do just try to make it as facilitated as possible. The PSD offers long-term, low-interest financing to all customers, regardless of a grant. A lot of tools to try to get people converted over to the public sewer system. We have about 96% of our water customers are also sewer customers. So probably about 700 some that are water customers still on septic. Nationally, you enjoy about 80%. So it's a place of pretty high sewer connectivity, but we're trying to get to 100. Recycled water, like I was saying earlier, all starts in the wastewater treatment plant. Come over anytime, we'll walk through it. It's a neat facility. But we're basically doing kind of garden variety wastewater treatment there. All really filtration, not chemicals and things like that. We're the stewards of these 10,000 some different wastewater eating microorganisms. That's what a municipal wastewater treatment plant is. The microorganisms are in the system and they're breaking down the harmful pathogens that's in the wastewater that comes into the plant. Turn it all into recycled water. It goes into storage lagoons where it's either going to go to Gulf, sold to Gulf, or it's going to go out to the wetlands when Gulf doesn't need it. We work really well with Gulf, also kind of as a storage partner at times. If we know we're going to get a wet weather event, Gulf will open up, they'll store what they can, and then we'll store as much as we can. Heavily regulated, once again. Wastewater, arguably, is probably more regulated than your tap water, believe it or not, by the federal government. And you have to meet all those different compliance realities. 11 golf courses. I think there's really only one golf course on the island that still uses a little bit of superficial groundwater for irrigation. All the golf courses on the island use recycled water. We have 11. When they don't need it, like I said, it's going into the wetlands. We get some really neat photos from Jack Alderman. He goes into Whipping Crane Pond and takes these kind of cool pictures for us. And as you all know, Whipping Crane, 59 acres, Cypress, 31 acres. And our biggest one actually is in Palmetto Hall. We call it the Wooded Wetland. All pre-existing though. They weren't created by the recycled water program. The program is nourishing. You've heard about PFAS. We're not finding any in the groundwater. Even if we were, reverse osmosis is the leading technology to remove PFAS. There is PFAS in that surface water that we're buying from the mainland though. We don't see it in a threatening level by the time it reaches us. Nonetheless, they are going to face a PFAS removal project over there. A couple of years ago, that thing was about $90 million. I'm sure it's more than that now. That's going to be further cost that we can expect to be passed on to us in that wholesale rate. So again, sets the table for more reliance on our groundwater going forward. One Water Future, this is just industry stuff that we talk about. I'm really involved in a lot of things with recycled water in our state. We work a lot with the state regulatory agency. We're trying to kind of expand the toolbox of recycled water in South Carolina. What we do with it on the coast here, we're really the leaders of it. But what we're doing with recycled water is only kind of scratching the surface of what you can do with it. It's got implications for industry, for energy, for agriculture, all kinds of different uses. We're growing golf turf grass with it. We're nourishing wetlands, but there's a lot more that you can do. We have to have the regulatory environment to be allowed to do that. There's some cool stuff going on nationwide where they're starting to build some buildings that are like LEED on steroids. The buildings that are entirely self-sufficient. They make their own water, they make their own energy, they recycle their own water, they use no utility connections whatsoever. Could be a future, I don't know about my lifetime. And more, we can always do a little bit more with stormwater in terms of being dedicated with it, really thinking about aquifer recharge when we're thinking about where we're putting stormwater. Building the lots necessary to be dedicated and intentional recharging the aquifer. No?
Okay.
Thank you.
It started out with one question, but after realizing that there are three PSDs on the island, which I was unaware of or hadn't really need to know. First, quick question, do we fluoride the water? The second question is, with the three PSDs, are there interconnecting valves in the event that one of the PSDs suffers a major loss of water supply?
So we do not fluoridate. Beaufort Jasper does a small amount of fluoridation. There is fluoride, some fluoride naturally occurs in groundwater. We don't have a ton of it though, naturally. Ourselves, I'm trying to get back to the slide that shows them. Ourselves and Broad Creek PSD are connected. So Broad Creek PSD, when they're buying water, they're buying it, you know, the pipeline is coming on at Jenkins Island. And they're actually drawing it out of some shared infrastructure, right around, it's off the corner of Matthews and 278 is where the tank is. So there's connection there for them to take water from us. South Island PSD has no connection to either of the other two utilities, and they are entirely groundwater based. It isn't as daunting a thing as it might sound like, however, if there was some kind of catastrophe. There's things like running fire hose above ground, getting that into a well to charge a well, and up you start pumping. We've done some studies about making the interconnections, and I think it was probably an opportunity to get South Island some kind of emergency connection to the surface water. You'd be talking about some real little localized catastrophes. If Broad Creek was trying to send Hilton Head PSD water, it'd be like a tough thing for them to do because we have so much head pressure of the system. They'd be like pumping against that. But that's like a resiliency is, I think, needed and something that's yet to.
Question from a Zoomer. Why does our water, particularly hot water, smell like hydrogen sulfide?
That is a plumbing issue primarily. That's usually a water heater issue. Yeah. And there's a handout today, and the POA has it, but we have a nice
You can
handout
download
about just some common water aesthetic issues you can run into. Also, there's a handout up front about smart landscaping, irrigation, lots of resources from Clemson Extension. That's on our website and Pippi has it too.
Pete, since most of our water is coming through the RO system now, does that mean that for many of us that have a point of use RO system in our home is no longer necessary?
So
Residents
I would
have
say,
to have an
you know,
RO
there's
system.
something
It's
after
still
the
necessary.
meter that's necessary for the safety of the water. But 20 plus years in the industry, I have experienced one spouse has this aesthetic experience, the same spouse in the same household has this other aesthetic experience. And we always say that those kinds of systems are really, they're your choice in terms of what your aesthetic, need is. One thing with them is if you're going to have them, you got to make sure you're maintaining them. They can end up putting stuff into your plumbing that you don't want in there and wouldn't otherwise be in there. You want to watch too, because some systems are taking all the chlorine residual out, and then that can have kind of a bacterial growth impact in the house. So it's like, if you're going to have it, you got to maintain it.
Can we get digital access to the budget?
It's on Engage.
It is.
It's under Coffee with Peter, special guest presentations.
All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
I want to thank Peter, and I talk to Peter on a regular basis. We're connected to each other by email and by phone, and whenever I call or email him or vice versa, we always respond, immediately, because we obviously have your best interest. He lets me know when there are going to be things down, and we can send out an email blast and also handle all sorts of other issues. But you can see from Jerry's presentation, Andy and Michael, they've got their hand on the pulse of this, and we're very, very well protected. And the technology that they're going through right now is really unbelievable. It's perfect. So we're very, very happy to have them. I'm glad that they were able to make the presentation. So we're done. Thank you so much for coming. The next one is on November the 20th, and this is going to be a total board presentation.
Any more comments?